Welcome to Carter's Country Club. This is episode 1, A Call to Right Action. My name is Ann Taylor Lashbrook-Wright, and I have been working on this presentation for a really long time. My intention was to live stream it, and that's turning out to be way more challenging than I expected. And you know what? This video might get pulled, as many of my videos many years ago were. But I want to play for you just a little bit of one of my favorite songs from one of my favorite albums to kind of set the tone because I know I've got a ways to go. Maybe you also have a ways to go.
I hear the clock a-ticking, see the sweat upon my brow. I know my destination, nothing's gonna stop me now. I'm running on desire, baby, I got nerves of steel. Coming down to the wire, Lord above me, guide the wheel. Keep me in your prayers tonight, I'll be weary upon that road. I know the finish line's inside, but I still have a ways to go.
Hi. So my camera's way up there and I'll probably be looking down here, but I just wanted to check in if we know each other and you somehow are not in my life because you only engage with people in social media. Hi, it's been many years. So I am here because it's the right thing to do. And I really don't want to be here, meaning I don't want to be sitting in front of a computer and all of those things. I would really love to be with you in person, and that is part of what I am here to share. So, over the last number of years since I left social media, which was right around January 6th of 2021, kind of an interesting date, but we can talk about that more down the road. What I have been doing is a lot of reading. So I have a few books here that I want to show you. And also, I'm wearing my old Blairwood lifeguard sweatshirt because that's also what I've been doing, not lifeguarding per se. I did lifeguard for a number of years because we were needed. Lifeguards were needed, swim coaches were needed, and I quite literally jumped in the pool because I was welcome. I'll show you some silly images later of people that taught swim lessons in a mask or a strange shield, but that was not me. So, yeah, again, more for another time. I want to show you a few books and then I want to get to this slideshow. Okay, number one, I've read it twice over the last couple of years. Really super valuable. And it is also why I will not use this word, not God tricks, but why I'm not using the word God, because I think it's so not who our creator is, unless we're thinking of gods and deities of the past, of lore. I feel that our creator is much more than that. And my desire, and the reason why, one of the other reasons why I'm here is to create instead of consume. I've been consuming lots of books. Another important book, oh, yes, about MK Ultra, mind control, all of the things. A very powerful whistleblower. And if you do not know about Cathy O'Brien, you should. And I used to not tell people they should, right? I'd say like, oh, don't should on yourself, but you should. You should know about her. Oh, big book with some lovely esoteric knowledge about ballet. But I've been diving deep into ballet, which has distracted me a little bit because my son, I'll show you an image in a minute, played the very feisty role of Fritz in the Nashville Ballet's production of The Nutcracker. And so a very deep dive, a very big book. My newest book that I have not read yet, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Oh my goodness, it's about orphan trains, and that's my project that I'm working on right now. Is a musical review with gymnastics and my 10 of my students. And if you're listening to this and if you've heard about these books and you were a child, this is not a video for children. If you're one of the kids that I coach, bye, see you. You should not be here. This could be scary, it could be inappropriate. It is not for children. And if you are a family member or somebody that has been in my life for the last number of years, this is also not for you, right? You probably came and saw Carter in the Nutcracker. You interact with us. This is not for you. Go ahead and leave. This is for people that are new to me and or they're coming back because they only interact in in the digital space. Another book that I haven't finished digging into, Vaganova method. So I am not afraid to talk about Russia or hear about Russia because I got to see the Kirov many years ago, but I love Russian ballet technique, and so I am doing my best to learn about that. Carter's teacher has left and gone to Italy. He is not Russian, but I feel that Vaganova is a technique that I get to learn a little bit more about. I was probably a little bit more experienced in Giacchetti and other things. This is a reread. An orphan. There are so many orphans in novels. The four musicals that we are using in this musical review are also stories about orphans. I'm sure you're familiar with Annie. I'm sure you're familiar with Oliver or the Dickens novel, Oliver Twist. You're probably familiar with Les Miserables or Les Mis, and maybe you're familiar with Newsies, which was a movie in 1992. We'll see some images from Newsies later, but that Carter's interest in Newsies is what kind of sparked this musical review. But I watched a really cool documentary about Ballet Jorgen in Canada doing an original ballet. They did it in 2019 of Anne of Green Gables, and so it made me want to read Anne again. So that's what I'm doing. And then lastly, I've read a lot of Mr. Icke over the last couple of years. This one is taking me a little bit to get through. You can see here because it's a little bit older, and I have to be honest, I am not as interested in reading about the Iraq War. But I know that I don't get to avoid topics just because they're not as interesting as ballet. So, lots of books. We could go on for days about books, but that's what I've been doing, right? Other than homeschooling and being with my son and going into a deep dive about orphan trains. Um, but but yeah, so I will see you on the other side. I have my timer set because I know that my keynote presentation will change the format of the video and it will not upload well. So I'm going to keep this short, not super short, but short enough that I can upload it. And there may be a part two, three, four, and many subsequent videos. And those of you that are interested in movement, I have my mat in the background. I'm not necessarily going to do that today because I've got to figure out and do my microphone stuff. I did put my leotard and tights on. I was ready for that today. But the most important thing is to get this information out. Okay. So let's keep moving along. You won't see me, but you'll see some lovely images and you'll hear my voice that is not as great as it once was because I've spent many years yelling in the pool. So, and I work in where I coach swim currently is a very, very, very old facility, and not properly ventilated. So I've damaged, Vishuddhi, throat chakra, damaged my vocal cords some. So Carter hasn't. He's taking voice. His voice is beautiful. My voice, not so much. Okay, we'll keep moving on. Ballet requires everything: physical focus, mental clarity, emotional intensity, and spiritual wonder. That's Julie Kent. She was a beautiful principal dancer. And this is my son. So if you haven't seen him in a while, he might look a little different from 4 years ago. The middle is his little headshot, and the image in the little suit is from him playing Fritz. And the other image is something that Nashville Ballet shared in social media. You can see the elbow of the other larger and older Fritz, but Carter was one of two boys that got to play Fritz. And I totally want to get into boys and ballet and all of those things. But I want to breathe because that's what the world told me that I couldn't do in 2020. And I didn't listen. So we'll keep moving on. This is probably where, we left off, where I was in the Red River Gorge and or headed back to the Red River Gorge. And so I want to move forward from that place. And the question that I have been asking myself as I have been pretty exclusively coaching and working with children for the last 5 years is, are we truly raising our young? And that song that I played for you earlier by Emmylou Harris is a ways to go, and I know we have a ways to go. I'm gonna give you a little bit of some harsh truth right now, and don't take offense to this. Or, I mean, you really, like my teacher Mark Passio says, get as offended as you like. I'm so tired of trying to not offend people. And so if you're easily offended, this is probably the time to, enjoy this beautiful image of the Red River Gorge and leave. Maybe you're like many of the rock climbers in 2020 that were pretty disgusting in their language and behavior. But it has been my experience as I have been working with children for the last couple of years is that 90% of parents they're not really raising their children. And I would probably say they don't have true care for their children. And maybe that's harsh, but I've actually checked in with some educators, some other individuals, and they say that's a pretty accurate number. A little disturbing, but yeah. This is my grandmother, one of my grandmothers. I wanted to start this presentation off, and you can read the text here. But I wanted to start this presentation off sharing where I come from. You've got that nice, slightly old world church. My grandmother played piano in that church for, I believe, it was 76 years. She lived across the street, or was raised across the street from that church. And my great grandfather owned the general store. And at that point in Habit, Kentucky, there was a church, there was a general store, and there was a school. That school is no more. It's kind of fallen into disarray, which kind of makes me sad. But I was raised, and although I do not call myself a Christian because I do not align with any institution, Christ consciousness was my path. And again, if you haven't talked to me or seen me since I left the world of social media, maybe you were a little alarmed at the fact that I was, kind of looking towards religion and the church, because I was seeking and figuring out, what was going on in our world. But after the last number of years and really reading Anna Reintort's book, I still fall in the same camp that I have for many years, is that I cannot align myself with religion. I have learned, Anna Reintort is amazing in her understanding of language because she speaks many language and she's a linguist and all of the things. So in my understanding, religion is about binding. So religare, it's the hold, it's holding back. And so again, if that offends you, then you should just move on your way. I saw the light with my grandmother. I still, oh, I'm going to get emotional. I still feel her, and you know, I understand her wisdom and her time in prayer and meditation. I just think that the institution is like every other institution or corporation or authority, and they have no place. They have no place in our world, and they are holding us back. Oh, and just in case you were curious as to why the background has the constellation Libra, it's because I'm a stellium. And if you'd like to connect me with Hitler, because Hitler was also a stellium, feel free. I think that's ridiculous, but if you'd like to do that, you can. And also George, George. I don't know why I said George, like George of the, Curious George. I don't know. Anyway, but Bruce Lee was also a stellium. Maybe there's a George that I was calling through that's a stellium. I don't know. But this book is, or this is an image from the Butter Battle book, which you'll see the cover on the next slide. But this is like the final little page there in the Butter Battle book. And again, it's about right action. And I believe that all war is immoral. And again, if that triggers you, just move on your way. But the question that we're being asked, or at least that I feel that we're being asked at the end of the Butter Battle book, is, is it right to drop the bomb on the other side of the wall? And I don't ever think that it is. I have been learning about the trivium. I cannot really speak greatly to it, but I am doing my best to understand things. I am doing my best, as I said in my reading, to dive into the knowledge. I am doing my best to process and understand that, and now I am using my voice and my words to share that wisdom. And big shout out to Mark Passio. What on earth is happening? He's got a shadow work seminar coming up in November that I will give him a private donation and take part in as soon as some things come into alignment for me. I have not finished all of his content. I have consumed quite a bit, but I did take his How to Become the True Media for 6 months last year, and that is also why I'm here. And I've been dragging my feet at doing that. I was on a podcast last fall where I got to talk a little bit about the Butter Battle book. But if you don't know this Dr. Seuss book, really you should check it out. I think it really will connect with you now, and it really shows how, in my opinion, how order followers are the problem. And the main character is part of the border patrol. So again, I just think it's really, really, really fitting. And if you think that I'm political, I need you to think again, because and also in the last couple of years, I've fully become an anarchist. I do not think that government is the solution. I agree with my teacher, Mark Passio, that government is slavery. And right now, there is still modern slavery going on, which is also the reason why I'm here, and also why I am in production of a musical review about orphans, because it's not something that just happened in the 1800s when we had orphan asylums everywhere, and the years of 1854 to 1926 when the orphan trains ran. I mean, if you think about lithium mines, if you think about child labor, that is still going on. Okay. So there are lots of things we could debate. And that's why I think that politics is not serving us because they're not getting to the root cause. And maybe you're sitting around waiting for, you know, them to release all of Jeffrey Epstein's content. Okay. You could sit around and wait all day because there are real victims and things that are happening now. As I mentioned earlier, I shared Transformation of America. Go and read that book. Go educate yourself. These front men that we see, these political parasites, all of them, both sides of the spectrum, are not serving us. I cannot read the Bible because I do not understand Hebrew. Okay. But if some of our interpretations of the Bible are correct, and I do not know whether they are, because again, I can't read Hebrew, so I can't discern that for myself. And I do not trust that the hand of our Creator was behind every person that has interpreted the Bible. Don't think that's true. You will know the truth, and this truth will set you free. If that is true, and I think that it is, doesn't matter whether it's John chapter 8, verse 32 or not. This is all about truth. And this is what I have been doing physically for the last number of years. I felt that it was okay to share these images because they have been shared in social media. So I apologize if you don't feel that I have the right, but they're all over the place. So I have been working as, and you can read this here, I've been working as a swim coach. I have been running a recreational gymnastics program, and my intention in coming back into the online space is to be able to create a physical place, not to keep working as a 1099 for another nonprofit, but to create what Carter and I call Carter's Country Club. And if you think that's gonna like involve a golf course that may have things hidden underneath, I don't see the value in that. I don't play golf. I did have to go to golf camp when I was younger, and I did get to play at Sawgrass and TPC and all that kind of good stuff. But that's not my jam, and this is not about an exclusive club. We want to talk about country music, which I know was, infiltrated with MK Ultra and many other things. Um, but I still love those instruments, and I really hold for myself and my son that, we can create in a way that is valuable. So as I am rereading Anne of Green Gables and as I am thinking about these stories of orphans, Anne, if you haven't read that book, you should. It's wonderful literature. But Anne is imagining, right, through her trauma and through her horrific experience or the character's horrific experience, she develops this wonderful imagination. And that is my intention, is to support creativity and imagination through the vehicle of athletics and movement and art and all of the things. So you can read this here. I wrote this many months ago, but again, this is my vision, is creating this physical place. And if you know my son, he has a very different upbringing, perhaps, than many other children. And it's not about privilege; it's about choices. I made different choices. His father and I continue to make different choices. Okay. And I want to really make sure that everyone is included. And that truly means everyone, which means if we're excluding, quote, white boys or white men of privilege, then that is wrong too. truly we get to include everyone. So I have been going for a little while and my alarm is going off. So I'm going to bring it to a close right now, or within the next minute or so that I make sure that I can publish this. I'm going to skip ahead to the last slide in this very, very long presentation here, or maybe sort of the last slides. Let's see. Oh, it's so long. Oh my goodness, because I'm crazy. And there's 234 slides. So I'm going to skip ahead here to the big vision: a farm, a training complex, or training center, fine art complex, a school in quotation, not like the uh, built on the Frankfurt School and our governmental, indoctrination camps, which people call schools, but a place for education, a classical education through the trivium and the quadrivium and those things, which someone else can obviously impart, right? I'm going to stay in my lane as, a swim coach and a teacher of movement, and really a dancer. That's really where my heart is. And so I'm going to stay in my lane and bring in those other places. But it's a moral place for all families who consciously choose. And I'm pretty sure that old George Balanchine, in my husband's opinion and maybe in my own, would be labeled a creeper. Pretty sure that, although I really am excited about this ballet called Western Symphony that I knew nothing about. And I do think that my son really falls in more of a classical dancer space, and that's what he's interested in. But I chose this quote from Balanchine, not because he was a creeper, meaning that, he preyed upon, young girls and young women, but because he did prop up women. And what I am seeing in the world of ballet is, in our desire to be neutral, I think that we might be excluding individuals like my son or people like myself. I hear very negative language around what they call cisgender or vanilla, people. But again, I want to make sure we're all included. And just like in athletics, I feel that the trans athletes need their own space, not to try to fall into the binary world that they hate. We don't need trans individuals in men's and women's sports because they don't identify as men or women. They identify in a different way. So, but in my world, and the children that I teach them that I am training strong boys and girls, not dogs, right? And if you know anything about the occult, maybe you know that the the evil dark occultists that control our world refer to us, or maybe not necessarily us, but the order followers, they refer to the police and military as their dogs. And I think that's really disgusting. And we could talk about the Paw Patrol and how I kind of see how they're indoctrinating our children. But the purpose of this slide was to say that I want to include the children that do not feel that they're included, meaning the unvaccinated, meaning the individuals that do identify with their biological gender. I do feel that the vaccinated and the other spectrum of LGBTQ plus, whatever all those labels are, I feel they have a place. Okay. So and I feel that there's people working to advocate for them, but I don't feel that people that anybody is really standing up for objective morality and what is true. Okay, because gender is a principle in natural law. Okay, and so if you're down with that, here's these lovely little images again of the kiddos that I work with, then you want to come along, right? And my humble request is please reach out and donate. That is my email. That is my current work email. So you are welcome to send me an email there. And if you were inspired by this presentation and you would like to support me and my family and this broader vision of Carter's Country Club, then you can scan those QR codes right there and send me some some fiat currency through Venmo or Cash App, and I will appreciate that. And so, thank you for listening. Feel free to leave comments on this video. I'm not really here to engage in social media. I think my husband will set up on Instagram and Facebook because he's happy to engage in that space. For Carter's Country Club in the future. And I am going to work on my live streaming capabilities. But please comment on this recorded video. Like I said, my work email is right there. So feel free to send me an email and we'll go from there. And please know that my views are not reflective of the nonprofit that I work for. I don't seek to be a 501c3 and connect myself to the government. They do. So their values are very different than my own and would be very different than what I envision for Carter's Country Club. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And remember that the most important thing I feel right now is not the debate about food or the conversations about what might be on the other side of the ice wall. The most important thing right now is that we think about these children and that we think about all of our children all over the world and that we are raising them to know the difference between right and wrong. Again, my name's Ann Taylor Lashbrook-Wright, and I'll see you soon.